So let's take a look at some considerations as you prepare for implementation. First, as I assume most of you have already done, you want to familiarize yourselves with the rule and the Bureau's resources. You want to ensure that your senior management is aware as the rollout of compliance can impact many things such as your budget, your operating system, personnel, processes, and training. It will be imperative that you keep them in the loop on progress as you move forward. In connection, you'll of course need to consider how this is going to impact your institution. So you might consider conducting an impact assessment. For example, will you be covered? What does your population look like for covered small business lending? This is also the time to start formulating a budget. Things to consider here are, for example, the cost of hiring and training employees. You want to consider who will be handling this process. While some HMDA reporters might have considered having their HMDA team also manage the small business data collection process, I would venture to guess that your HMDA team is likely overwhelmed in managing the mortgage application data process that they already have to handle. Another budget item is the cost of amending your LOS or obtaining one or some type of front-end system to support small business data collection. An Excel spreadsheet is not an LOS, so you want to give careful consideration to a true upfront system support. Budget can also be impacted by other IT-related issues in establishing, for example, new system reports, or if you need to integrate more than one system to gather data, which could happen depending on the makeup of your business lending activities. Which brings us to contacting your LOS or platform provider if you have one for business lending. If you haven't done so already, discuss with them about any steps that they have taken to support the implementation of 1071 and data collection and retention. Policy updates. Keep in mind that besides this, of course, being a Reg B issue and impacting that policy, you might also have a record retention policy that highlights a wide variety of records that you'll want to update as well. Next, think about how this data will be collected. For that, you'll want to consider the various data points and from where you will get that information. Data collection standards, by that I'm referring to more in-depth consideration of how various data points will be collected. This is something that you'll want to think about, and you have a chance to look at staff interpretations that expand on those topics. Determining your documentation process is also important, and it can include things like staff responsibilities and data mapping. You'll need to work with your IT group in considering the firewall provisions or determine whether you're going to implement the notice. Of course, establishing overall responsibilities for managing this process and documenting procedures will be important. Training, the implementation of internal controls and accuracy reviews. Maybe consider maintaining scorecards so you know where your problem areas are and implement reinforcement of the requirements there. Review outcomes for potential fair lending concerns. That's important. And why? Because we know fair lending is one of the primary purposes of why they're rolling out 1071. Lastly, incorporate the process into external review plans. In summary, there is definitely a lot to consider in building an effective process to comply with these provisions. As your small business lenders are going to be an integral part up front to support this process, I encourage you to work with them early and often as you move through implementation. I want to invite you to reach out to me if you have any questions